use our products to collect and manage data. So I look forward to doing a large part of the actual product demonstration with you today. Doug, you want to go ahead?
Yep, so Doug Schultz here, VP of Biz Dev, and a lot of the sales operations here. I'm more the technology guy. I've been a long-time technologist, executive as a GM at Intel for a number of years, so I'm bringing and have brought a lot of the sort of technical side and platform side versus the healthcare and the research side, which is already sort of beefy in the team. So happy to be a part and meet you guys all in a room, and excited to walk you through what we're going to take about the product and the company and how we've evolved since we last met.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Doug. And before I kick it over to you, Susie, I'll go through the agenda. So just a quick housekeeping. Can everyone see the agenda slide?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Great, thank you. So here's the agenda that we have prepared today. So after I kick it over to you, Susie will be introducing the group at a high level, and then also discussing the current partnership. Then we want to do just a quick company overview, and then we'll go into the platform overview as well, and then just dive right into the technology demonstration. And then we'd like to leave anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes to discuss Q&A or any next steps, any materials that we may need to deliver to you. So with that, Susie, would you mind introducing us to the group?
So there's about 10 of us in here right now. I am the only one who's used this on a regular basis, so everybody in here is, there's a couple who see the output, but everybody else has never seen this in action. I have our Senior Associate Dean and our Assistant Dean of Education is on the phone, I believe. So we have an IT person, some analytical person, a registrar, and some other interested parties who may be using this product as we go forward in different aspects.
Perfect.
For those who don't know, currently this product is being used. In the 7 years that I've been here, we've used it for course evaluations, and we've used it for our outcome surveys. It's been a tool that we've used for longitudinal stuff where we've been able to identify by one person and catch their stuff all the way across the board. It's used via email. All the emails are sent to the students or to a program director or to an alumni. The data that we use is currently outputted in an Excel file. I play some magic, upload it into SPSS, and that's when Dorothy and Donna do their magic. And usually we will have a graduating class of, for example, 2016, we'll have one data set, and it'll have step scores, it'll have everything across the board, including everything that we pull out of here from all the surveys. So that's kind of our history with it. It's the only product I've used here in the 7 years I've been here. But as we all know, we're kind of looking at what we have and what we don't have.
Perfect. Nick, you want me to kick it off from there?
Oh, yeah.
It's all yours.
Oh, sorry? Oh, okay, great. So yeah, we'll kick things off, Doug. We just changed the slide for you, so go ahead.
Sweet. So again, Doug Schultz, what I thought we would do is since Susie indicated that that's pretty new to all of you, thought I'd give you a little company overview and understand where we are and where we came from. So is evidenced by Sarah, who's been here a full 11. I think the company's a total of 15, 16 years old, and the original concept was exactly how you use the product. It was very researcher-oriented, and just being able to, at a massively scale and accurate and cool and compelling way, be able to collect data from folks, as well as do that in a longitudinal way and looking across the timeline and have it be automated and systematic, and because it's just so painful in the research world to do that effectively. So the entire team is largely a research team, and the product was built out of genuine pain in the research and specifically in the education space. Over the years, a lot of educational research and academic research, but probably the predominant, percentage of the 110 some odd customers we have are in the healthcare space. and just a lot of clinical and sort of research around healthcare is where probably the majority of the pie chart of our customers come from. And so with that, we've evolved with the evolution of healthcare. So what I wanted to outline, in addition to the world you know well of academic research and how you use the tool, we keep continuing to innovate and grow and expand its functionality and its scalability, primarily due to the push we've been getting from the actual healthcare side of the marketplace. So if you were to look at our website today, you'd see a combination of academic as well as healthcare focus. And so I thought I'd just introduce you to sort of what we're doing in the healthcare space, just to, out of genuine interest, but to also to show how we're evolving the platform. So with that, and the key word here you're going to start seeing, and I don't know how much you're tracking all the current, evolutions of Obamacare to value-based care and what they're calling population health. And that basic concept is the idea of taking the concepts of big data that have been happening in e-commerce and social media and just managing cohorts of people, and as you do in research, then predicting outcomes from that research. And that's obviously what's happening in healthcare, to try to be more one-to-many and aggregating data across the entire population of people suffering from a particular condition, and then from that predicting how best to treat those patients based on that data and analysis, how much to pay the provider who's providing that service, and are they doing a good job along a normal path of patterns across a big aggregate. So just big data is entering the healthcare space, and obviously that made a great entry for us. So with Nick, if you can give me the next slide. And so the way the platform lays out, and you'll see it from a different perspective from Sarah's conversation, but fundamentally, again, it is a data collection and a data management and a platform that collects that. So if you were to think about the data we live in a healthcare space, we power Geisinger and Kaiser and lots of university medical centers, a number of them. And so this concept of population health that we play in now in that side of the world is essentially pulling together data from the claims databases, from all of the, EHR and all the health records that are being collected now digitally for, the last, 15 years, lab results, pharmacy results, all of that is being pulled together to, again, make this analysis about how an individual is tracking along their care. And obviously the place we play in, and a critical part of this sort of population health soup, is the patient data. And today that's largely done by, a provider, a surgeon, a doctor, a caregiver, just simply asking questions and filling out papers and entering data into the system. Obviously there's a lot of efficiency that can come from doing that automatically, again, along the same longitudinal line that you would do a research of a participant, that is now happening with a patient, both pre-surgery, after surgery, along that line. So our mission in this equation is to be, continue to innovate and grow and collect that data and provide it into these giant healthcare systems, both payers who are managing the payments to these providers, as well as the providers who are trying to manage the care along that continuum. So just thought that might be an interesting perspective. And so the way the platform looks when we're talking to a large healthcare medical center, that platform sits down there with the skills of collecting and managing data, but we also have to have a lot of robust connections with all these pre-existing systems that sit inside the hospital. So, we show up and there's a lot of incumbents who've been collecting and managing data for years. Our job is to match that patient collected data into that mix. So a lot of the expansion since we first met with Susie is to not be a standalone system, but to actually provide and feed data automatically, in batches, on schedules, in data chunks that take all that data. But the same ability for a caregiver to predict a workflow and a timeline of how a patient should, process along the condition, those are all programmed along the line. And likewise, patients are curious about the data. I mean, we're providing insights and recommendations as to how to intervene from what the doctor's recommending. And all this is done, in a more automated way so that we can improve the scalability of healthcare, i.e. less, providers, powering and enabling more patients in a more efficient scale, which is where the cost of healthcare is going to come down. So anyway, not to say that we're leaving the research space. Again, the majority of our customers are in research in the space you live. The good news for you is we're being challenged by a whole new category of customers, which is why Nick reached out to you, is to explain some of those new features and some of the things that we've innovated on the healthcare side are great advantages to what's happening in the academic and on the research side. So that's the context, because I just didn't want you to be confused if you clicked on the website, because there's a lot of messaging around healthcare, but it's exactly the same product and the same, the same mission in life is what we're doing. Does that make sense, Susie?
Everybody okay? Yes.
Great. Well, with that, I'll hand it back to Sarah, unless there's any questions about the company, the size, the, again, profitable going concern. Been doing it out of Seattle and keep growing every year. It's been fun.
Thanks, Doug.
All right.
You're welcome.
All right. On that note, we will transition here. I'm going to talk a little bit about, first of all, a little bit of just a platform orientation, so you understand, what are the products that we're working with, what products has your organization been working with, and where are we going with those products. And we've changed a lot over the years. As Doug said, we've been growing. We've been learning from the markets that we work with. As I mentioned earlier in my introduction, I come from the academic space, using the product with college student populations originally as a customer. We really have our basis there, and then have been growing and challenged through other markets that we've encountered. But that core technology that underlies the work that we do is just getting better and better every year. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that platform. I'll start here with talking a little bit about the products that we are using here. So DATS.Illume is the product that your organization has been using for many years. That's the product that's used by our customers to create, edit, and publish their data collection forms. Whether those surveys are being taken, directly by students, whether those surveys, are entered by an interviewer, entered over the phone. Either way, they're created with that Illume software that allows our customers to learn how to program those surveys. It's a Windows-based application. So if you've ever used Windows, you're already partially trained. So it's designed for folks like me who came to this product as a psychologist, not a developer, to learn how to use it quickly and easily, create those questionnaires, all of those data going into a database that can be hosted by DATStat, or for some of our customers, hosted on their own location, and then have immediate real-time access to those data via a website. We call it the Data Manager. It's a place you can go in, easily grab the data, look at summary statistics, charts, graphs, reports, and then download those data into 8 possible download formats. So that's the DATS.Illume product that you guys have had in-house for many years to collect data. Partnered with and tightly integrated with Illume is our Discovery product, which is not currently at your organization. The Discovery product puts Illume into the workflow in which it resides. So when you start collecting data over multiple time points, possibly via multiple modes, and potentially with multiple forms of communications. So maybe there's emails like you're using now and that Illume supports, but maybe there's also text messaging, mailings, phone calls. When you start getting into the flow chart of a workflow, that's where Discovery comes in. And instead of using Excel spreadsheets, access databases to manage students, to manage patients as they're moving through a workflow, Discovery gives our customers the ability to configure that workflow and do it in a software product that's fully integrated with Illume for data collection. Underlying both of these are, or associated to both of these, Software Developers Kit and API. And that very open API allows us to use Illume and Discovery as a platform onto which we can do things like push and pull data from external systems, like learning management systems, health record systems, where we can build custom applications, portals, student or patient websites on top of this underlying platform. So starting first on sort of the left side of this, the DATS.Illume side, the product that you've had within your organization for years, DATS.Illume has evolved over the years since we've worked with your organization, and your organization recently upgraded to our most recent version, which allows us to really develop those surveys, those questionnaires in such a way that they can be accessed by anyone from anywhere. They are entirely mobile responsive, so whether you're taking the survey on an iPhone, a tablet, or a desktop, that survey is going to render appropriately, look good, be easy to complete for those participants. You know, we came out of scientific research, so, you know, we had to, from the very beginning, think about things like advanced calculations and logic to make sure the questionnaire was flowing appropriately, that it was calculating the T-scores or Z-scores or whatever scores are needed within that assessment, that it could feed back information as well as collect it. So whether that means asking some questions, then showing a brief video, or playing some audio, then asking some more questions. You know, we have a good number of customers who use Loom alone as their intervention delivery. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and then my intervention is going to be delivered in the context of that survey itself, whether that's, again, video, flash, audio. And then have that integrated fully with a communication management system so we can deliver out invitations, reminders, thank yous to take those surveys. And again, it's built with an application that our customers can use themselves to create and edit those questionnaires. So again, with some minimal training, we can bring you up to speed to build those questionnaires using just the right out of the box features. And if there are some folks who, you know, beyond using the point-and-click interface, really want to crack a Loom open to create really any kind of question that can display on the web, our products are also very developer-friendly. So we have developers here at DATSTAT. Sometimes our customers have those in-house or a partner with them to crack open a Loom and create their own custom question types. So in addition to it being very user-friendly for those who aren't developers like me, who can come on board and use it for their own data collection, it's also a very developer-friendly product for those who want to take it beyond what it does natively. So that Loom, when we talk about Loom, we are talking about both that product that's used to create these questionnaires, as well as the side of the product that's used to access those data in real time and to manage the communication with the participants. All of that is bundled into what we refer to as DATSTAT Loom. Now, partnered with Loom is our discovery product, as I mentioned earlier. So this platform combines, allows us to take us beyond just the single time point survey to assessing our participants over multiple time points and automating that workflow. So let's say we're doing a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 9-month follow-up, but my 6-month follow-up is going to be very different than Nick's, depending on when I started in this workflow. Discovery allows us to automate and schedule that data collection to make sure any reminders and notifications go out on the right schedule for each individual participant. And because of the native connection between Loom and Discovery, what I say on my surveys can then immediately affect my workflow. I report something on survey A, maybe that means I should next month be delivered survey B, but Nick should get survey C. So Discovery's integration with Loom allows us to then be able to track not only when should people be taking surveys, but when should they be taking surveys? When should phone calls be made, text messages be sent, mailings go out? Exactly when should that happen for each participant? What are the if-thens of that flow chart that are going to control what exactly does happen for any individual participant? So when you put Loom and Discovery together as an integrated solution, then we get the advantages of a participant database. So Discovery gives you an interface where you can pull open any individual student, patient, participant, see who they are, how to reach them, what they've done, and what they're due for. And then it's going to automate whatever it can automate. So the emails need to go out to remind those participants to do things. Text messages need to go out on a certain schedule. It's going to automate all of that. And it's going to provide for the things that can automate, like maybe you want to do phone calls every quarter to update information. It can provide task queues of who is due for what and when. So what I thought we'd do is take a little bit of a live demo look at an actual workflow that incorporates both Illume, the product you've been using for many years, and Discovery, the product that can then put that data collection in the context of a workflow. The example I'm going to use here is in the healthcare space. It involves a patient who is being registered at a clinic to participate in a data collection effort after that patient has recently had a joint surgery. So that patient has the surgery, and we're going to ask questions of that patient and of the clinic, and we're going to follow that patient over time at a month, at 2 months, at 6 months, and then every year thereafter. So this same type of workflow here applies to our customers who are following, students quarter after quarter, year after year, whether they're following family members in a longitudinal tracking of health within a family. But the point I want to make here is there's the points of data collection, and then those points of data collection are then incorporated holistically into the larger workflow in which they reside. So I'm going to hop out of PowerPoint here, and we're going to take a look at this process. So this process starts with Illume. We have a survey that's filled out by the clinic to register that patient into this workflow. So with this, our integration of Illume and Discovery, you can have surveys out there in the world that students or others can go to, put in information, and by filling out that questionnaire, that self-enrolls them into this workflow. So I'm going to launch this form. This is in Illume Next, which is our current version of Illume that's entirely, again, responsive to the size of device that I'm using to launch this form. And this form is very simple. I'm a member of the clinic. I'm going to put in the name of the person I'm registering and click this Add Participant button. That's as simple as this form gets. When I complete that form, right at that moment, Illume, the data collection engine we're just looking at, made a communication to Discovery. It told it, I've got a patient. Start scheduling tasks for this patient. Start scheduling surveys, communications, whatever needs to happen next for that participant. So now let's actually go into Discovery itself. Log in here. So Discovery is an entirely web-based application that provides a place for me to track and manage my patients, my students, my participants as they are moving through the workflow. So I can immediately see there's Nick, who I just filled out that data collection form for. I filled that out. He is here. And immediately now Discovery knows I've got someone, I need to start assigning tasks and workflow associated to this person. So I'm going to take a look at Nick here by just clicking my little view icon. So immediately I have access to everything I need to know about Nick. I've got fields of information about who he is, some contact information about him, and I have a place where I can very easily look at scores and other things from the data that I collect from Nick. So it provides a dashboard for each individual participant so I can easily see who they are, what they've done, and what is pending to occur for that person. So I can see for Nick that the next things that need to happen for Nick is there's a patient baseline survey and there's a clinic survey. This survey might be taken by Nick comes into the clinic and I hand him an iPad and he fills out that questionnaire. It might be delivered via an email link where he's going to click on the link and take that survey. And that survey is an Illume survey. So Discovery is going to dole up the surveys that need to be taken by Nick at the right time for Nick, depending on where he is in his workflow. So this, again, this is an Loom survey that's being filled out, a responsive survey that, as you'll notice, changes as the size of my screen changes. The survey changes to make it appropriate for the type of device on which it's being taken. As I complete surveys for Nick, that information writes back and forth natively between the survey and to Discovery, because maybe if Nick indicates he's had a left hip surgery, that information might control what communications or later surveys need to occur for Nick. So if we take a look at now at someone for whom those initial surveys have already been taken, like let's take Stephen here, who's already taken that initial baseline. I can see he's already got some scores and some information here. He completed his baseline on March 16th. So his baseline surveys are already complete, and I can see he's been automatically scheduled for some future data collection. So there's going to be an email that's going to go out on September 16th, and then he'll get his survey, his 6-month survey. So as soon as those initial surveys were completed, Discovery automatically scheduled the next tasks at the right date and time for Nick. So Loom alone is ideal for managing the data collection side, for creating those questionnaires, for building some basic email invitations and reminders to go out to Nick, for a one-time survey. When you start getting into multiple waves of data collection where you're now tracking many students or many participants over time and needing to communicate with them potentially in multiple ways like email, text message, mailings, and phone calls, that's when Discovery's integration with Loom can be particularly valuable. For the things that can't be automated, like in this workflow, for the follow-up, some patients don't want to be sent an email. They want someone to call them and to complete the survey that way. Well, then Discovery provides queues of people who are waiting for these phone calls. So I can see who they are, how to reach them, log my attempts to reach them, and then mark that task as done and move on.
And then, I'll just add one point real quick. If you go back to that last screen, Sarah,
sure.
The participant summary, this question comes up, so I'll just add one quick point. The participant summaries are fully configurable. So these forms are fully configurable, just depending on your needs. So just FYI.
Yeah, so like Loom, Discovery is an application that our customers utilize based on their study requirements, based on their data collection or workflow requirements to fit those needs. So whether in Loom it's creating whatever questionnaire they need to create, or in Discovery configuring that workflow. So in addition, so we have the Loom side and the Discovery side, and as I mentioned, all of these data are going into one centralized database. So instead of having Loom for data collection and then other systems that need to be in place to then really track and manage where people are in the workflow, we get that together in one system. And then the data from this system are easily extracted into a variety of formats. As we talked about earlier, our data manager side of the application provides an interface where we can very easily go to any of our data collection forms, any of our questionnaires. So we have here's the project we're working on here. Any of our questionnaires, I can quickly and easily see, okay, how many submissions do we have on each of these questionnaires? I can go to them and very easily know what's my response rate, how many people are completing the survey, how many people are halfway through but have not yet finished. Because all those data are being saved as they move through the form, so they can easily continue right where they left off. And then from here, do things like ask questions of the data. Like I want to see, show me the counts and percentages of participants who are having difficulty on this question, say descending stairs. I want to see the counts, percentages, descriptives. I want to easily pull open charts and graphs of those data and then download them, the real-time data, into a variety of formats. Take that right into SPSS SAS with the data dictionary fully loaded. It's a ready for analysis file. All right. Let me just stop there for a moment. I know we're going to save time for questions and answers at the end, but any questions or clarifications anyone would like to make at this point before I sort of move on to the next step?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, very good. So, we've talked about now, and I'm going to go back to this slide here. We've talked about here, Illum and Discovery now as really DATSTAT's core platform, these products together. And then on top, earlier I talked about on top of this platform, associated to this platform, we have our SDK and API, which allow us to then really leverage this platform in a variety of ways, whether that's from an integration perspective, really anything with an API we can integrate with. We can push and pull data from that external system. And I wanted to give you a feel for some of the creative ways our customers are leveraging this platform and that very open API that allows us to leverage Illum for data collection, Discovery for workflow, and to put on top of that some really interesting custom portals, websites, and applications that really benefit the people they're collecting data from. So I'm going to go back out to the web here. We've been working for a while now with a customer that is the COPD Foundation, and they have a huge mission in front of them to try to really create an international registry of people who have COPD, and to allow those people to form a patient-powered research network where those patients can come to this place where they can learn about COPD, they can connect with other people who have COPD. And the network itself can learn from these patients, collect data from them, enroll them potentially in research projects, learn from them, but then also give back to them. So whereas Discovery is really designed for the staff who are managing the workflow, it's not a place for the students to go to or the patients to go to. It's for you to help manage the workflow. A site like this is really designed for the participant, for the student, for the patient, as a place they can go to and they can see what data have already been collected from them, what's due to be collected. Just in the way Discovery is showing that to you, this shows that to them so they know what they need to do. And as they provide the COPD Foundation information, COPD is giving back to them by giving them resources and access to information and reports. So we've seen customers build this type of, and let's take a look at it a little bit. I'm logged in here as, here you can see I'm logged in in the upper right hand corner. I'm logged in and this is my dashboard where I'm going to see information about what I've done and what I'm due for. So I can see I've completed the informed consent, but I still need to take this enrollment survey. These tasks are both Illum surveys. Illum is handling the data collection. Discovery is handling which task is this portal going to show that I need to do next. So our API is talking, it's allowing the communication between this website and our products to ensure the right surveys are available, Illum, that's the Illum piece, and at the right time for the right person, that's the Discovery piece. Those two things are talking to this website to make sure it knows what I am due for and when. And then in addition to giving me a place to enter those data, it's also going to give me a place to see information, like I can get a feel for how the enrollment's going. I can provide once I provide information from my enrollment survey, it's going to give me back some of that information and show me how I compare to other members. And then it's going to give me access to information like videos, some documents, and allow me to join a community of other folks with COPD. So we can build a custom websites like this, and our customers can build custom websites like this because we can integrate with those external systems. Whether that's, excuse me, a learning management system, a health record system, we can use and leverage a Loom for data collection, discovery for workflow to take the best of those worlds and put that into a custom website that then allows our participants to get something back for their participation. So I hope, from this little bit of demonstration of a Loom discovery and then these kind of custom portals, you have a sense for, the direction that we're going with our products. We've grown a lot over the years with a real goal of reaching more participants where they're at so that they have better access to enter data, but we have better ways of reaching them and communicating with them, and better tools for our customers for then tracking and managing those participants that we're now able to reach. So perfect. We've left some time here, so I'd love to, at this point, we'd love to open it up to whatever questions you have.
Okay, I have a question as I was sitting here thinking through this. So we have students who come in their first year, and by the end of their fourth medical school year, we've required them to fill out so many surveys.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that if, at the beginning of that, when they first walk in the door, we can link surveys to them all the way along the line, and as those surveys should appear to them, they will appear to them in their workflow. We will assign them a workflow of what they should complete. And by the end of the fourth year, they should have everything, they should, in theory, have everything in front of them completed and everything that they needed to take.
Yeah, and in fact, I really couldn't have said it better myself. Yes, that's exactly what this is designed to do. That's exactly right. You need to communicate it to, as you just said, you're the one who knows what people need to do, right? That's your job, is to know what people need to do. And then the product's job is to then, once you tell it that, is to make sure it happens and to provide you with the information on what has been done and what hasn't been done. One of the big ways that people, for example, use our discovery product is not only to reach out into the world and remind participants about what they haven't done. Hey, you're in your fourth year, you're supposed to take this fourth year survey, it's been 3 weeks, you still haven't done it. They also, and they're used to thinking in terms of, we're going to trigger alerts and trigger things when things happen. People also use discovery a lot around making sure they're notified when things aren't happening. So, that's alerts to study team members, to staff, saying, I've got, this person, they are 3 weeks out. This is an alert to you notifying, maybe you should get on the phone and call them and remind them, or whatever you need to do to get those data. So that's exactly right. That's the whole purpose, is to make sure that you are getting the data you need to get when you need to get it, without putting staff time and resources into having to track and manage whether things are happening at the right time for the right people. If you know the rules, there's no reason those rules can't be automated, and that's why we developed Discovery, to automate those rules.
Okay, so in addition to that, along that 4-year span, a student may leave on a leave of absence, or they may go off and do research, or they may go off and get a master's in public health, or whatever the case may be. So their 4 years are interrupted. But if we are integrated with Canvas, which holds our class rosters, will it take that student who's now on a leave of absence out of their rotation until we know that they're coming back into the schedule?
Well, the bottom line is you're configuring the rules. So if the rule is that the learning management system says this person is out, and you're communicating what should happen in that event in Discovery. So if it's grabbing information from an external system and bringing that information in, it's a matter of what are you configuring in those rules in Discovery to do under that event. So if your rule is, we learned that they are out of rotation, so therefore reschedule their next survey or cancel their next survey and schedule something else instead, those are the rules that you're communicating. So how it would handle that is however you're telling it to handle that.
Okay. So then the next step we have.
Engine. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the next step we have is they've graduated. They're out of our Canvas, they're out of our registrar system as we know them. They've graduated, they're 3 months out into their residency program, and we need to hit them again with another survey.
Yep.
So it would be a different list because we're now going to probably have their home personal email addresses or whatever hospital they're doing their residency. But we can still hook that into that workflow?
Absolutely, because again, you know, it really is, it's a rules engine. So you're configuring the rules. It's all if-thens. You know, what should it do under what scenarios? And you can have multiple workflows kind of within the same configured system. So maybe they start out in the workflow that's I'm following this student through their 4 years here. That's, you know, that is a workflow. When they complete that workflow because they move on and now they're at some other university or wherever they're at next, then they're moving into kind of the next workflow. And you can have these multiple workflows operating within the same system where people graduate from one workflow to another workflow, so to speak. And again, how that happens and when that happens, those are the rules that you're configuring.
Perfect.
So I have a question about that whole issue. Can you kind of explain what the difference is between Discovery, using Discovery as a tracking database, and using Access? You had mentioned it before.
Yep.
Did you hear that, Sarah?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. And in fact, I would say in my, you know, let's see, how many years have we had the Discovery product? You know, close to about 7 or 8 years now. In my experience with Discovery, most of our customers who start using Discovery came to us from using Access databases because Discovery made sense to them, you know, from using Access. You know, they understood the idea of a tracking and database system like Access. And there's 2 main reasons why people, instead of just staying with their Access database, ended up switching over to using Discovery. One very common reason, you know, they would have, say, 1 or 2 folks who were their Access experts in the organization who had, you know, maybe built the database. They were extremely dependent on that person and that person's knowledge, and frankly terrified that that person was going to leave the organization and take with them that Access database knowledge with them. So it was an application that they didn't feel like they could sort of more broadly manage as staff turned over, you know, as their staff grew, et cetera, because, you know, all of the knowledge lived within that one man or woman who, you know, was the Access expert. The other, I'd say the biggest reason is really the seamless and native integration between Ellume and Discovery. Ellume is not natively integrated with Access. It's natively integrated with Discovery. And so what that allows is, you know, things like using surveys to update your participant tracking information. So let's say you've got contact information, emails, phone numbers, et cetera. I can use Ellume surveys that I send out in the world. They complete those surveys where they're updating their contact information, say every quarter. Those surveys write back to Discovery's participant tracking database. So there's a direct communication from those 2 systems to each other. Both Discovery feeds to Ellume, Ellume feeds to Discovery. If on the Ellume survey I indicate something that may mean I need to have a different next step in my workflow, Ellume and Discovery communicate that. So if I say on a survey that, you know, I've graduated or I've moved, maybe that I've moved, maybe that's going to trigger that next week I should get a link to a survey that collects all of my new contact information. So that seamless integration is what people are looking for. They don't want to have to manage multiple disparate databases of information. Let's have that all in one database and have it talk to each other seamlessly. So those are the 2 big things that I will say that prior experience with Access it only kind of helps our customers because they already understand the concept of a patient tracking or participant tracking database. But then they are relieved to then have a system that they can manage, more people can update it, more people can learn it, and not be, beholden to that one or two people who are the resident access experts who, God forbid, may leave the organization and take with them all that knowledge. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sarah, can I ask a question about participant lists and how those work with the workflow, the discovery workflow? So right now we have participant lists that we build and we marry to an individual survey, right? Is that right?
Correct.
And so with the discovery workflow, where and how do we get a participant list and say these are the participants going through this workflow? Is that something that's done through that API call, or we can do it manually, both?
The latter. So the SDK and API are not needed to support Ellume and Discovery. Think of that as an add-on to Ellume and Discovery if you want to, build from there. But just for Discovery to function, basically it's very similar to what you're already used to with participant lists. What I'm looking at here is on my screen right now. This is a participant list. It's a participant list that can be uploaded via a flat file, just like you do now. So there's a place right in Discovery where you can upload a flat file or add participants one by one. Or you can use a survey, like in this example, where we used a survey and put Nick's name in the survey, and that added him. But it uses the same concept. It's just one participant list, but all the different surveys, by putting them into this workflow, are therefore immediately connected to this one list. So all the different surveys use this one list. These are all the people who are going to take all the different surveys. So instead of having survey list, survey list, survey and list, you have one big list that's created in the same way you're used to creating a participant list in Ellume. And it's just that all the surveys that I make part of this workflow are now, by selecting them as being part of this workflow, by nature now are using this list.
I have a question. So you said that you can do sort of self-assessments and peer evaluations and evaluation of learners. So if we're not thinking about one individual filling surveys, but rather having surveys filled by a number of people about an individual, can those be integrated in some form of view where you can say, for this person, what type of surveys have I received about them? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so things like maybe 360 evaluations, or maybe multiple separate teachers need to indicate something, fill out different sections or different surveys, or maybe the same student needs to fill out different forms about different classes. That kind of one-to-many relationship is certainly very familiar to us. And the way we think of it is, as we look at this list here, there is an identified participant, and that might be a teacher, that might be a student, that might be a patient. And then we're assigning tasks associated to that participant, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that participant is the one completing all those tasks. So there may be surveys being completed by other people, but those are going to be associated to a specific person's record. And so, we can assign tasks associated to Stephen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Stephen has to be the one completing those tasks, as long as there's a connection back to Stephen. And that connection is typically done through some kind of ID. So Stephen's got an ID, and as the 5 teachers who are filling out surveys are filling them out, that ID is, part of that data set from each of those 5 teachers, so that there is a link back to Stephen.
Okay.
And I'm sure this is true, but just to confirm, so we're going to have multiple different kinds of surveys for multiple different things. There's rules about who can have access to the data, but it can vary from survey to survey, right? So for one set
Oh,
of
yeah.
surveys, one set, okay. I'm sure that was
Yes,
true.
we're very, very roles and privileges driven. As you can imagine, especially, in the past number of years, really focusing on large healthcare systems, we have gone through very intense security audits and evaluations to make sure that we're controlling access to data at a very granular level. So you have very explicit control over who can see what and who can do what in the system. Down to even lower levels than the survey itself. I mean, you could get down to just limiting people to only seeing data from certain questions within a survey. We get very granular with roles and privileges because, frankly, we have to. I mean, we had to even before we moved into healthcare. I mean, just in the academic, I mean, we've been through some of the roughest IRBs in the country. I guarantee you that. And, we pass with flying colors because of our, security practices and how we store and manage data and how we handle access to data.
Thanks. Can you give us any examples of integrations with Canvas that you've had, or just describe what those have looked like or what you've integrated between DATSTAT and Canvas?
We do not have direct experience integrating with Canvas specifically. So we have, that being said, we have really, what we have is a very open API that allows us to connect with just about anything. If it's got an API, we can connect with it. So I can't give you a specific example of integration with Canvas, but I can tell you that, we have integrated with things that many other organizations thought could never be integrated with, like Epic Health Record System, et cetera. So, I'm confident if, Canvas has an API that we can integrate with it, because so far we have rarely ever come up with a system with an API that our very open API cannot make an integration with.
So yeah, I think that some of the examples that we do have might give you an idea of how we do integrate, so that's something that we can actually follow up with you on as far as information.
So yeah, to Sarah's point, it's certainly a technical feasibility is certainly, the confidence is extremely high. We've kind of never met a system we couldn't talk to. Just to clarify our business model, we don't proactively, find a system and then say let's go integrate and hope that somebody needs it. It's every single integration we've done has been customer driven, where the platform, the two need to coexist side by side, and data needs to pass side by side, and so we engage in the project based on a customer-driven request.
So okay, so on that, you guys normally, I'm assuming you guys probably have a standard set of API calls that you guys have available on your website or something that we could download?
Sarah, chime in here, but I've had people talk to me that describe that all the documentation on the site goes into great detail and should answer most of those technical questions, but Sarah knows better.
We have, we have a link to all of our documentation, and we can get that to Nick to deliver to Susie and out to you. So we have a link to, our site has all of the available calls and all of that, so we can certainly get you a link to that.
And those are your out-of-the-box API calls. So if any of the deans, if they need new API calls to be able to retrieve and or call different data, is that at cost?
To develop
all work that's custom, because Canvas requires something we don't have in our bucket, that in addition to the integration itself and supporting you with whatever's needed, any creation of new APIs or calls would be a cost-based discussion.
Okay. Any other questions?
Another one, just real quick, is the web-based stuff. So this is a web-based application, and we have a lot of security permissions set on our public machines around here. Do you guys require add-ons?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. Require, what was that?
Add-ons. Since it's web-based.
Can you clarify what you mean by do we require add-ons?
Or there's certain web-based products that when you download or when you try to open them up, not download, excuse me, when we try to open them up in a browser, they're going to ask you to install a quick add-on so that you can actually view the data or interact with the data. So my question
like a plug-in?
Right.
No. No, it does not. Thank you for clarifying. I know exactly what you mean. It does not.
They're all pure browser-based, so whether you're in Chrome or Safari or whatever's on your phone or tablet, you'd see it and it would respond the same way regardless without any kind of plug-in or special connection on the part of the user.
So you guys don't have a preferred browser then?
We don't. I mean, and we've got our technical specs kind of up on the a portion of our website. You know, we are cross-browser, and we have a list of all the browsers that we support. And yeah, our customers are out there in the world collecting data from tens of thousands of participants, and not knowing what browsers they're on. We've got to support a very, very, very wide range.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's it on our end.
Okay. Any other questions, Dr. Awad? I'm not sure if he dropped off or not.
He had another meeting right after us, so I'm sure he has dropped off.
Okay. Great. Great. Well, thanks for joining. Doug, did you have any closing remarks?
No, just thanks for your attention and interest, and I guess, you know, depending on your time, you know, it might be, if this has sort of sparked any interest or projects, oh, thank goodness you guys told us this, because we're knee deep in a project that's not going well. I'm just sort of curious if there's follow-up that should be had beyond conversations with Susie or with anyone else in the room. I know the LMS team is in there and analytics team is in there, and just, you know, just if anybody wants to raise their hand and say, yeah, it'd be worth scheduling a call for a follow-up to dive into, you know, deeper discussion on a particular concept, we'd obviously love to chat about that.
Not at this time. I think we're good.
Okay.
Great. So I'll just go ahead and follow up with you directly, Susie. I have a few action items here to deliver, a few links. But yeah, please just let me know if there's any other resources that you need. We're happy to provide those.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
all.
Hey, everyone.
I'm gonna
I just